So I'm working on a 2014 Ford Fusion with a 1.5 liter Ego Boost engine. The customer comes in with a charging light on and they say, "We friend put a new alternator in it." And what is this alternator? I don't know the manufacturer. They just put a new alternator in it and they just put a new Napa Legend battery in it. And with the vehicle running, this thing's surging all over the place. I can take my voltmeter and put it in volts DC, and it's up to 15, down to 13.2, up to 14.5, down to 12.9, back up to 15. It's like it's in default mode. So what I did is I came over here and I actually unplugged the voltage regulator connector, and then everything stabilized at 13.9 volts, which means to tell me either they didn't reset I'm going to try to reset the battery monitor on this. There's an actual battery monitor light on this car that you can reset when you change things, like, you know, a module or a battery or some like major electrical component. But I don't think it's going to fix this. That aftermarket alternator is going to be the problem. Most of the time when customers come in here with aftermarket alternators, they're just not built to be able to supply the right amount of voltage regulated on these newer vehicles. So I'm going to reset the BMS real quick and then plug everything back in and see if it's still doing it. And if it is, I'm going to tell the customer they need an alternator. So this is what we're dealing with here. Down to 13. It'll jump up over 14 and a half, back down to 13 and a half, up to 14. So this thing is erratic right now. I just reset the BMS, and you can look. If you look at that box where the light is flashing, you can see it surging. See it surging like that? But now watch what happens when I unplug this connector. Now you can even hear the engine stabilized. It's running smooth right now, really smooth, and it quit surging. And now look at the light. And now put the meter on it. Stable. So it's going to need an alternator. So with that alternator being newly installed, they're going to take it back to the people that originally did the work on it and try to put the right alternator in it, or maybe it's a defective regulator in that alternator. But sometimes when you see stuff like that, these aftermarket companies, they don't build regulators that are up to par with the factory stuff. But then again, there were a certain number of years, 2004, 5, 6, where the Ford 500s, you could put a factory Ford alternator in it and it would still throw a light, but you'd go down and get a Chinese AutoZone Gold and throw it in there, and then the light would go away and it would function fine. So it's kind of hit or miss. Really, these cars like the factory alternators, the ones that are actually Denso or, you know, something like that. And that's how they function, based off that real good clean reading from them. But these cheap alternators, $100 alternators, this is typically what you run into. So now she's going to have to leave here, pay an hour diagnosis, and she's going to end up having to take it back to the people and have them put the right alternator in it or fix the problem. So that's the issue with this car.